I bet you can feel the life between us. Thank you, Kathleen. I heard her this morning when she was getting ready. And I heard her say, you know, I love playing here because people are actually listening to me. So we hear you, we see you, and we appreciate you. Today, my talk is Intentional Mission, Fulfilling Our Purpose in Life. Now, throughout this entire year of 2026, we're going to be exploring the idea of living intentionally. Living intentionally means making conscious, deliberate choices that align with our core values and our mission in life, rather than letting external pressures, or what some people might call autopilot, direct our path. It's actively directing our resources, which is time, energy, and money, toward things that truly matter to us, so that we live a life of clarity and meaning. Last week, Reverend Valerie talked to us about intentional living by knowing our purpose, being clear on our purpose. So today, I'm addressing intentional mission. Now, just so that we're all on the same page here, because I think it could get confusing, or at least it does for me. And before I forget it, I'll tell you, I created a handout for you. They're in the back on the counter, and they have definitions that I'm going to be talking about today. So, when we talk about our purpose, we're talking about our reason for being here. And Reverend Val shared that with us last week, and she offered to us that maybe, since we're divine creations, our purpose could be to be a divine expression. She wanted us to allow Spirit to use the power we have, the 12 powers we believe in unity, to really create the life we want. The power of faith, of wisdom, of love. The power of imagination to create the world we want to see. Zeal, that's bringing the energy to life, not just being bored through life. Order, I like that one. And all of the 12 powers. You see, we don't want our ego to be guiding our life. We don't want the ego to be the driver of our life. As spiritual beings having a human experience, we want Spirit to be what's driving our life. Our mission now is a concrete plan, the steps we take to achieve our purpose. So the purpose is why we're here. The mission are the steps we're going to take to achieve that purpose. I will tell you for myself, I know my purpose is to express love, joy, peace, and acceptance to people in the world. My mission includes steps like helping people feel seen and heard, active listening, which means not spending my whole time when somebody's talking planning my response, but really listening to them. Encouraging and uplifting others, because as I do that, I uplift myself. Loving myself, caring for myself, and finding my own voice. Growing up in the family I did, this has been a long journey for me to learn to love myself, care for myself, and find the voice that God gave me. Part of my mission is to feel and know my connection with my divine source, my Creator. Another part is to be a safe person for all people. To be at peace. To find joy all around me. Last year, my word for the year was joy. And another part of my mission is to share love and compassion that I have within me for the world that I live in. These are actions that help me to achieve my mission and live my purpose. It's all part of intentional living, which is what we're talking about this year. So today I want to share with you my three A's for intentional living. And that is awake, aware, and alert. So to be awake means not living on autopilot. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had this situation where you get in the car to go somewhere, and there's this great conversation going on in my mind. And so I'm thinking about this, I'm talking to myself, I'm having this big conversation, and when I arrive at wherever it is I'm going, I think, wow, how did I get here? I don't remember the trip. That's being on autopilot. And we don't want to live like that. We want to be conscious and deliberate in our choices and in our actions. It reminds me of a story of a Buddhist teacher. He took his students to this cute little town that had a wonderful Main Street. And so he dropped the students off at one end of Main Street. And he said, now I'm going to meet you at the other end of the street. I want you all to walk mindfully through this town, and I'll meet you at the other end. When the students all found him at the other end of the street, he gathered them and he said, how many buildings did you pass on the way? What were the people wearing that you passed? Did anybody stop to help that lady that was struggling with all the bags? The students looked at him dumbfounded. You see, they traveled through the town, but they were on autopilot, trying to reach their goal of meeting their master at the other end. And nobody paid any attention to the building or the people around them. We don't want to live like that. We want to be awake. Can anybody else relate to that? Being awake means making conscious choices for our actions and mindful decisions. So we're not reacting to things that are going on around us, but we're choosing to create the life that we want. So here's a funny story I'll share with you. When I was a little boy, my grandparents lived next door to us. Their days began early. They worked hard, and usually they were up before sunrise. Grandma would fix Grandpa breakfast every morning. And so one particular morning, it turned out to be a little unusual. Grandma fried his bacon, she baked his biscuits, she fried his eggs. And she was on autopilot. She did this every morning, she was doing it. She put the plate in front of him, she was half asleep. Grandpa started making a lot of noise. Autopilot, or making a lot of noise, is my term for he was cussing at her in German. At the time, we had a lot of chickens, about 250 chickens. And so the eggs were fresh, and one of the eggs she had fried him had a partially developed baby chick in it. And I guess Grandpa really wasn't ready. He was awake, but he didn't want chicken and eggs for breakfast. So he was making some noise. It woke Grandma up really fast. See what can happen when we're not awake and conscious of what we're doing? We all do fall asleep at times, so to speak. So staying awake, I say, is a spiritual practice. It means we practice it because we're not perfect at it. We're not always awake. Our minds float off into that autopilot mode. So we need to be awake. The second A of intentional living is to be aware. Now there's a couple parts about being aware here. First is to be aware of your values. What do you value in life? Have you thought about that? Are you aware of that? I found that during my life, my values have changed. Can you think about your life and maybe how your values have changed as you've grown? At one point, one of my values was finding a career and gaining the education to be successful in that career. There was a time when I wanted to find a life mate and get married. At another point, I wanted to save money and buy a house or a new car. When I started on my spiritual journey, one of my values became finding like-minded people that I felt safe with so I could explore my beliefs with them. None of these values were bad, but they did change over the course of my life. Today, I find value in peace, in quiet time, and organization in my home and my daily activities. Safety, security, and peace of mind are very important values to me. So how do I nurture and create that life that I want to live, supporting my values here? Well, as I do that, it will help me to achieve my mission in life. Now, many years ago, Tom and I were involved in a small church community. And we came to realize after a while that the, what's my term here? The culture of the organization was one that when one person was in crisis, everybody in the congregation was in crisis. So if somebody went to the emergency room or they got entered into the hospital, the entire congregation, we were small, would go to the hospital and be there with them. And over time, we realized, we can be compassionate with people. We can pray for people. We don't have to be involved in their stuff every minute of the day. We can have our own life. And so we got to make a conscious decision to separate from that community, to choose a different kind of life. During my career as a nurse, I worked in the ER. I worked in several different ICU settings and on the hospital helicopter. At one point, I became aware of my addiction to that adrenaline rush in these settings. And I was able to make a choice to move to a different job in nursing where I wasn't having that adrenaline rush all the time. That supported me in living a calmer life. Now, the second part of being aware is making purposeful direction. This means not being pulled by distractions that happen, but awake and aware so that I can choose the directions I want to take in my life. One value I hold is meaningful connections with people. I want to be awake to opportunities that help me engage with people who are around me, who are safe, and certainly here at Unity of East Louisville, we have so many activities that allow us to do that give us those opportunities. I enjoy attending Unity's game night and playing various games on a fun and playful level with other people so that I can meet them and understand them in different ways. I think there's one coming up next Saturday. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to try it. I can attend Rebecca and Mickey's Crystal Bowl meditations to nurture my spiritual nature and interact with others who are on the spiritual path. There's Unity movie nights. That gives us an opportunity to watch a movie and then discuss the lessons in the movie with people that are like-minded. The men's group, the ladies' luncheon, the Sunday morning book study, a course in miracles, a course in love, the Sunday prayer circle, the drumming circle, various classes and other activities that are offered here at our spiritual home help us create a foundation to live our personal mission. It all begins by being aware of what we value so that we can choose situations and activities in our life to support those values. There was a time when I would have thought I had to participate in all of these activities so I didn't disappoint somebody. Well, maybe not the ladies' luncheon. But I've learned that need to try to please people comes from my ego, and I can get past that. So being aware of that, I can make a different choice. Now I can decide if an activity supports my mission and make a conscious choice on what I'm going to participate in, both here at Unity and in the wider community. The third A is alert. Living intentionally does not mean being more productive. We're not just doing things for the sake of doing things, but being purposeful, mindful, conscious about what we're doing. It's important to be alert also, so that we don't allow things to sabotage us from achieving our mission. What might sabotage you from achieving your mission? Well, think about how you spend your time. There was a study done that showed that the average person, now is anybody here average? The average person spends 2.75 hours watching TV and 15.1 hours on their phone a day, scrolling, playing games, talking. Now, I don't want to argue with anybody about how you might or may not be average or how these statistics fit toward your life, but the point is really what time wasters are consuming your time. To be alert to that so that you can make a different choice. Do you ever get caught in Facebook land and hours later think, oh my God, I need to get busy? Do you get lost scrolling on your phone or watching TV or shopping? Are you wasting time in ways that you could be living a more intentional life? Does how you spend your time really support you in achieving your mission? That's something you can reflect on. Remember, your mission are the concrete steps that you take to achieve your purpose, your why are you here question. Now, I can't tell you what your mission should be. That has to come from within you. But what are you passionate about? What actions do you feel called to do that will support your mission? I had a good friend who was very clear on her mission. Anytime we would be together, it seemed like at some point during the conversation, she would look at me and get this smile on her face and say, you know what my mission is. And then she would take off on this tirade of telling me her mission. It was a whole paragraph that she had. She knew it and she said it. She said it all the time. In fact, she said it out loud to herself every morning of her life. And she said it multiple times during most days whenever she'd find somebody that would listen to her. Now, I've learned a lot from that. She has passed away, and I wanted to be able to call her and say, Mary, what is your mission again? But you see, with her reciting this all the time, she kept it in front and center of her mind. And so every decision she made in her life really reflected back on, is this supporting my mission? Is this something I want to do? So these 3 A's of intentional living are integral to my life. Being awake to make conscious choices and mindful decisions. Being aware of my values to make sure my activities are supporting those values. And being alert to where I'm spending my time so the activities and actions I do help me to be who I came here to be. I mentioned the handout, and they are in the back for you to take if you want to reflect on that. It'll help you with your homework this week. Yes, I'm giving you homework. But it also has this beautiful graphic up here that I decided once I looked at this, I'm going to cut this off. And this is what some people would say suitable for framing. I can put this on my altar at home and have it in front of me. It says, live every day with intention. And that's our theme for this year. So your homework this week is to spend some time in the quiet, reflecting on your personal mission, the action steps that will help you fulfill your purpose. I want to leave you with a final story to show you that whatever we do, it is important. There was a woman named Haley who attended a spiritual conference. And when it was over, she offered a gentleman that she had met at the conference a ride to the airport. His name was Ethan. So as they drove along, Haley asked Ethan where he worked. And he told her about the community faith ministry in the Midwest and the name of it and where he worked there, what he did. Haley said, "Oh, I know that organization. I have such fond memories of them. You see, I went to a retreat that they offered in Colorado back in the summer of 1984. That's where my whole world changed." She went on to explain that after that retreat, she and her family became involved in faith and service. Her sister had become a humanitarian worker overseas. And Haley herself eventually became director of a large nonprofit that helped fund education and clean water projects throughout the world. So she said, when I think about it, that retreat ended up having worldwide impact. Ethan sat quiet in the passenger seat. And after what seemed like a long time, he said, "I led that retreat. It was my first time ever leading a retreat, and I went home convinced that I had completely failed. I've always believed it's been one of the biggest disappointments of my life." Haley thought about the synchronicity of this moment and the connection the two of them had made. She said, "You know, this conversation is a powerful reminder. Our efforts matter more than we realize. We may spend our lives doing things that don't look successful on the surface, but God knows the full story. Our job is just to show up." So I ask you, are you showing up to life? Are you awake, aware, and alert? So you're living the life that you want to live? As we move into this year of exploring intentional living, I pray that you will be awake, aware, and alert in all that you do. And I hope this year brings you amazing connections in this spiritual community, knowing that everything we do with great intention does make a difference. Your job is to show up and live your mission each day. Namaste.